I'm 84 years old, and I'm about to tell you something that might break your heart. Everything you think you know about being a good person is a calculated lie. The people you trust most, your family, your neighbors, your society, they've convinced you that your reputation is your greatest asset. They're wrong. I spent 60 years building a perfect life, only to realize at 70 that I was a ghost in my own home. I'm running out of time, and you need to hear this before you disappear too. Before I continue, please subscribe for the truth they don't want you to know. I was 70 years old, standing at the head of a mahogany table, raising a glass of Cristal to celebrate 7 decades of excellence. My husband was smiling. My children looked like a magazine cover. Then the room didn't just spin, it went silent. The doctors called it a silent stroke. I was awake, I was present, but I couldn't say a word. For 48 hours, I laid in that hospital bed and listened to my family talk about me as if I were a saint, a pillar, a statue. And that's when the terror hit me. They weren't mourning me. They were mourning the person I pretended to be so they could stay comfortable. Let me save you 60 years of regret with one truth. A good reputation is just a fancy word for a cage. I see you right now. You're in your 30s or 40s and you're exhausted. You're saying, once the kids graduate, I'll find myself. Once the mortgage is paid, I'll start that business. Once I retire, I'll finally say what I really think. I am 84. I am telling you, that day never comes because the people who benefit from your silence will never give you permission to speak. During those 2 days in the hospital, trapped inside my own mind, I looked at this Susan Thompson everyone praised. She was a masterpiece of compromise. If my heart had stopped that night, the woman buried would have been a stranger to me. I realized that my life wasn't a tragedy of failure, it was a tragedy of success. I had won at a game I never wanted to play. We've been sold a dream that is actually a debt. I chased the executive titles, the colonial-style home with the manicured lawn, and the respect of people I didn't even like. I thought I was building a foundation, but I was just building a bigger mausoleum. The more I owned, the more I was owned by the image of having it all. The day I came home from the hospital, I didn't go back to my old life. I began to kill the good Susan. I started saying no, without explaining why. I sold the house that was too big for my soul. My social circle shrank overnight because, as it turns out, people don't love you. They love the version of you that serves them. It was the loneliest and most beautiful funeral I've ever attended. People often ask me about my children, expecting a story of maternal pride. But my biggest regret isn't that I worked too many hours. It's that I taught my daughter to be polite instead of powerful. I spent decades modeling a lie for her, showing her that a woman's value is measured by how much she can endure while keeping a smile fixed on her face. I see her now at 40, repeating my exact mistakes, her shoulders hunched under the weight of expectations I helped place there. I realize now that by being a perfect mother, I failed her as a human being. I taught her how to build a cage, but I never taught her how to fly. Don't teach your children to fit in. Teach them to be seen, even if it makes the world uncomfortable. At 75, I did something my social circle called scandalous. I flew to Japan alone. No husband to consult, no itinerary to please, no reputation to maintain. For the first time in my life, I wasn't Susan the mother or Susan the wife. I was just a woman breathing. I sat in a tiny tea house in Kyoto, listening to the rain hit the temple roof, and I wept for 3 hours straight. I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because it had taken me 3/4 of a century to realize that the world is breathtakingly wide, and I had been living in a shoebox of my own making. I had traded the roar of the ocean for the safety of a puddle. The cost of your comfort is almost always your soul. Now that I'm 84, My body has become a collection of whispers and warnings. Every morning I wake up is a gift I didn't earn, and a debt I eventually have to pay back. When your joints start to ache and your breath grows short, the executive titles and the polished silver in the dining room don't offer a single ounce of warmth. You realize that the only currency that matters in the end is the truth of the life you actually lived. Did you feel the sun on your skin, or were you too busy worrying about your skin aging? Did you speak your mind when it mattered, or did you swallow your words until they turned into gall? Most people die at 25 and aren't buried until they're 85. Don't be one of them. I spent 50 years chasing a horizon called enough. I thought once the bank account hit a certain number, or once the kids were settled, or once I had the right jewelry, I would finally be allowed to exhale. But the horizon is a trick of the light. The further you run toward it, the further it moves away. I see you chasing it right now, sacrificing your health, your sleep, and your relationships for a day that doesn't exist. You think you're building a legacy, but you're really just burning your only candle to light a room you won't even be in.
Stop running.
Exhale now. Enough isn't a destination. It's a decision you make today, or you never make it at all. Here is the hardest lesson I learned in my 8th decade. If everyone likes you, you're doing it wrong. To be truly alive is to be polarizing.
It means you stood for something.
It means you had a boundary that someone else didn't like. For 60 years, I was terrified of being the subject of gossip. Now, I realize that the people whispering about you are usually just too cowardly to live their own lives, so they try to manage yours. I would rather be the woman people warn their daughters about than the woman they pity for being so reliable and selfless. Selflessness is often just a polite word for self-erasure. Be selfish with your time. It's the only thing you actually own. The clock isn't just ticking for me. It's ticking for the version of you that hasn't started living yet. I am down to my final chapters, and I refuse to let my mistakes die with me. Stop waiting for permission from people who don't have the courage to live their own lives. Stop waiting for a better time that will never arrive. Life is messy, it is loud, and it is brutally short. I can't make the choice for you, but I can tell you this. You do not want to be 84 years old, looking back at a life that belonged to everyone but you. Wake up. Your life isn't coming. It is happening right now. I'm sharing this because I refuse to let another generation go to the grave with their music still inside them. You have a chance I no longer have, the chance to start today, right this second. Don't let another year slip away into the void of someday. If you're ready to stop performing and finally start living, let me know in the comments what you're changing first. Subscribe to stay with me as I share the rest of the truths I learned far too late. The time is now.